I'm in Avignon in France. I'm 16. I'm on holiday with my family. My father is trying, in English, to negotiate a table for dinner. Blank looks from the restaurant owner, frustration from my dad, and for 16-year-old me, can you imagine? Complete embarrassment. Quelle honte. So I step in with my schoolgirl French, and voila. Communication is established, and soon we're tucking into steak frites. Now, that moment crystallized for me the power of being able to speak to someone in their own language. And it's a lesson that we can take into business. There are two languages in business. There's what, and there's so what. And today I'm going to look at how learning to speak so what will help your communication and drive opportunity. Now, I'm sure that your business has brilliant ideas, fantastic products, great service. But do you sometimes find it a bit hard to translate that into opportunity and sales? And have you thought about why that might be? Have you ever considered that it might all be down to the language that you're speaking? During my 30 years in the IT industry, my observation was that people with a great product are absolutely fantastic about talking about what it does and all the speeds and feeds, as I said in my intro, but they find it harder to express the so what, how that technology or how that product or that service actually benefits others. Does that sound familiar? Do you think it could be that you're speaking what when you should be speaking so what? And if so, what can you do about it? Now, the key is this, that when we've got a great product or service or a fabulous technology, we are so in love with it, we're so enamored of it that we think the rest of the world will be too. But actually, the secret is that they're not. Customers are not interested in technology. They're not interested in the detail of your product or your service. What they are interested in is what it will do for them. Now, I worked for a client, I did some work for a client who developed software for restaurants. They had an absolutely thriving business. Then the pandemic hit and their business dropped away virtually overnight. As we all remember, restaurants could only operate takeaway or delivery. So my client pivoted and they developed software that allowed restaurants to take online orders directly through Uber Eats and Deliveroo. So a brilliant idea, a brilliant piece of technology. But of course, the technology and the idea in itself wasn't enough. They had to communicate it to the market, and that's where I came in. So I helped them strategically plan a so what message, a message that restaurants could relate to. And then I helped them get that message out there consistently to their target audience. Now, the result, they've actually got more customers now than they had before the pandemic. Left to their own devices, my client's message would have been about their APIs, about their integrations, about their hybrid cloud backbone. Very exciting stuff and not really resonating with many restaurants. With my input, however, they had messages about benefits, about value, about outcomes, messages like reach your customers at home. I helped them translate from what to so what. So how can you ensure that you've got so what communication? I'm going to share with you the methodology that I took that client through and that I use with all my clients. And it's all about being able to answer 5 questions. If you can answer these 5 questions, you're well on your way to creating a so what message. So question 1, who is your audience and what are their aspirations? Now, how can you possibly speak to somebody in their own language unless you know who they are? I couldn't have spoken to that restaurant owner in Japanese. He wouldn't have understood. I had to know who he was and speak his language. And when we communicate, it's so tempting to say, well, I help everyone, or, you know, I work with anyone. And we hear that sometimes, don't we, in networking? But actually, the more specific you can be, the more your message will resonate with the people you're trying to target. I met a videographer once at a networking meeting, and he said to me that he specialized in not-for-profits and helping them to use video to raise more funds. Now, my sister-in-law happens to run a not-for-profit and needed to raise more funding. So I introduced him. Had he just said he was a videographer, would I have introduced him? Would I have even thought of it? No, I wouldn't. So be specific about your audience and their aspirations. Question 2, what do you offer? Well, for most of us, this is a pretty simple question. We know what we do. But the key here is to be able to describe what you do in language that your audience understands, and to start off by describing it very succinctly. Now, my tip here is to actually get that down to 3 key points, use the rule of 3, and be able to describe what you do in 3 key points. Question 3 is, what are your differentiators and your credentials? What makes you good at what you do and what makes you stand out? This isn't about boasting. This is about building credibility that helps your audience to understand why they should pick you. Question 4, how will your audience benefit from working with you? This is the real crunch question. And it's often forgotten in business communication. It's easy to assume that once we've told people what we do, that, well, it's obvious what the benefits are. Well, it might be obvious to you, but it's not always obvious to your audience. So it's really important that you articulate the benefits for that particular audience of working with you. And that really does start to get to the heart of having a so what message. Question 5, why do you do what you do? Now, this might seem a strange question, but actually, when we communicate, we have to communicate with emotion and on an emotional level. All the research proves that whatever we think, we make decisions with our heart, then we rationalize them afterwards with the head. So we have to communicate, as I say, and make that emotional connection. And sharing the passion and the reason behind what we do is helpful for making that connection. Once you've answered those 5 questions, you can be confident that you've got a so what message. You'll know that you're speaking your client's language, and you'll know that you are going to meet the 3 goals of effective communication, which are that your communication connects with the right audience and gives them a desire to engage with you. It convinces them that you can help them, and they want to progress with you, and it converts them to becoming a client. And as Ed told us is so important, to becoming a client over and over again and to referring you. Now, I've rushed through those 5 questions very, very quickly, but of course there is a lot behind them. There's a lot of research behind them, and there's a lot of reasoning behind them. Of course, with my clients, I go through these in a lot more depth, which is in the form of a half-day workshop where we explore those 5 questions, which results in a written message strategy document. And then I work with them to create, from that strategy, to create a 6 or 12-month content plan and to create that content for them to really help them get the message out there consistently. So if you are struggling with your business communication and communicating your value, or you know someone, particularly in the technology sector, who is, please put them in touch with me and I will help them stop simply talking about what and start talking so what. Sorry, that's the forms of communication that I use. But yeah, this is how to get in touch with me. Thank you.